You're listening to the Mile You're In podcast. Everything running related, from 100 meters to 100 miles. And now, here's your host, Phil Patterson Jr.
What's going on, everybody? You know who this is. I want to welcome all new listeners. If you're not subscribed, I think it's time you do so. For my return listeners, I appreciate you continuously showing the love and coming back. I can now say week after week because I was very inconsistent the first few months of doing this show, but the last few weeks I've been on fire, like back to back. You guys are holding me accountable, so I appreciate that. One thing because of that I just want to throw out there, and I'm going to put in the show notes for you guys to check out, is I have started a Patreon page. So if you're interested, you could click on that, find out more about it, and see if you're interested. I have a special guest again this week, one that now that I think about it, I say this every week, but it seems like they get harder and harder to make happen, but we've been trying for a long time. So we finally made it work. And I want to introduce my guest for this week's episode, Sabrina Southerland.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me, Phil.
My pleasure. And I know I'm glad we didn't interrupt it. She just, with these time zone differences, she just finished lunch. So I got to throw it out there. What was lunch for the day?
Lunch for today was actually a salad, chicken salad. With one of those, those salad kits you get from Trader Joe's. Yeah, I'm pretty lazy. I don't make my own salads. I just get the complete salad kit. I make my own chicken and whatever to throw in there.
Well, I'm one of the people, I get kind of like, I guess I shock people when I say this. I'm just making sure I'm not being false with this. Yeah, I have never been to Trader Joe's.
Oh my gosh, you're missing out. I worked at Trader Joe's for 4 years, so you're definitely missing out.
I'm there's like one, I think I'm trying to remember, because if I did walk into one, it was like 4 years or so ago, and it was just because I was working at the running store at the time and had to pick something up. So I think I walked into one just to get something, but I know I definitely have never shopped there. So maybe I'll just walk into one and walk around and then see.
Yeah. Oh, you definitely have to check it out. Also, if you try something and you hate it, you can bring it back, even if you took a bite of it. Really? That was one of the things I learned while working there.
See, I don't know. I'm the type, I just deal with it. I kind of as a loss and a lesson learned, and then I just move on from there.
Yeah, I hear you.
Now, something that we were going to discuss a little bit later on, but because I just checked my Instagram, and I'm sure you know where I'm going with this, I guess I wanted to touch on it now, because it's one of those things where when I see certain posts, even though they're like generally good posts, if it's news you're not expecting, it's still kind of, it's a sad moment, a happy, sad moment, I guess you would say. I just saw the post, and for those who are fans, Chanelle Price has announced that she's retiring from the sport. So I guess I first would ask, because I seen your post, which actually came up right after hers. So was this like you already knew and you had to keep it on the low, or this was a shock for you as well?
No, I had known for a couple of months now. So yeah, she just announced it to everyone, but yeah, I knew it was coming.
Because I saw your "Unbreak My Heart" quote, and I was like, yeah, that's but it's I wanted to bring that up because we were going to talk about that relationship you have with her, and you even kind of touched on it in your post and your comment on her post. What was that whole relationship like on and off the track, to train with her, not just for who she is, but everything she's accomplished? Like, what was that like for you as a person and an athlete as well?
Yeah, so Chanelle and I have a really good relationship as teammates and roommates and friends. So I got all different sides of her, and they were all great, especially as a training partner, because we kind of fed off of each other. So just grinding it out with her, like if I was dying, she'd be like, okay, it's all right, let's just keep it going. And if she was dying, I would be her hype man. So kind of like, it was kind of like we were really supportive of each other. And also as friends, we have a great relationship. We spend a lot of time together and we live together. So there's never a dull moment. We were really attached at the hip. So it's sad to see her go.
Yeah. And then I wonder what it's like, because I didn't research this too far into it, but I'm sure you guys have at some point competed against each other, correct?
Yes, we have competed against each other.
So what's that? I mean, I know out on the track, you're in your own zone, and really, there's so many other runners out there. So it's not like a one-on-one, but what's that like, especially if you come out on top? Like, what's the emotional roller coaster like going through that?
Yeah, I guess on the outside looking in, I guess a lot of people think you can't be friends with your competitors, but it's the complete opposite for Chanelle and I. And like, we even talk about this, where like, if there's anyone that's gonna beat me in a race, I'm hoping it's you and no one else. But yeah, sometimes I beat her, sometimes she beats me, and it's all love at the end of the day. And I know how hard she works, she knows how hard I work, and we've been dying, killing each other on the track. So it's like, if there's anyone I want to beat me, I want it to be someone I know has been putting in the work, has been grinding it out, and someone I actually care about. So.
And that's the thing I really love about just running in general, no matter the distance. Obviously, the shorter the distances, I've mentioned this before, you're not communicating as much, and if at all, especially at the more professional level, it might just be one or two words, especially if one runner is doing better and realizes the other has a chance, you might kind of encourage them on. For me, it's always been, whether it was some of the shorter 5K races that I've run where it was more on the competitive side, or the ultras that I do now where it's more, our goal is to finish and we kind of just have fun with it. We all, everyone's encouraging each other, because at the end we want to see everybody, one, get to the finish line injury free, but two, accomplish their goals, because each, for just the weekend warriors, as we like to say, we all have our different goals. Some people are trying to PR, some people are just trying to complete the distance. So it's really cool to see that friendship can stay in the sport, and it's not so envious of another person's success.
Right.
That's always been great with the sport.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's the good part. I mean, I know some people don't feel the same way, but for us, the two of us, yeah, it's all genuine, and we actually care about each other, because at the end of the day, we're actually helping each other get better. So there's no reason to have any problems with each other.
Yeah, especially because a lot of you train together, and even if you're not like specifically on the same team, sometimes you'll go wherever and you guys train with other athletes from other brands and other teams, and you guys compete so frequently that I feel like you just start to make those connections. When I felt like when I used to wrestle and I would see the same people every weekend at these different tournaments, it's like you just start to build that friendship and bond, like, hey, we're going through this struggle together. So
Exactly, that's exactly how it is. It's like you're competing against pretty much the same people every weekend, every other weekend, and it's like, well, you build a relationship between them, whether you're rooming with them or just competing with them in the same race or just at the track meet together.
Awesome. Well, let's get into a little bit of an intro for you, we kind of skipped. I realized we skipped over that. So, tell the listeners, especially for anyone who doesn't know who you are, just a quick intro about you, whatever you'd like to tell them.
Yeah. I guess I'm from New York, Queens, New York, and I went to Georgetown for undergrad, and then I moved on to Oregon. I transferred there in my 5th year, and I did my master's there, and I competed at Oregon for a year, won NCAAs indoors, and then I signed with Nike, and I'm now with the Oregon Track Club based out of Eugene, Oregon. And yeah, that's pretty much my background in running so far.
So I've heard a little bit of this story, but again, for those who aren't familiar with it, how did you get into running? Because I know there were other sports kind of at the beginning of your athletic career, as we would say.
Yes, I actually did basketball up until my freshman year of high school. So I was on the team. I made the basketball team, and my basketball coach was actually, we had to run a mile before practice, and just the competitor in me was like, all right, I'm just gonna beat everyone, regardless if they're guys or girls, because the guys and the girls, we would practice together. But mostly I just wanted to finish the mile so we could get on to basketball practice. And then every day I was beating all of them. And then like I was running like a 7-minute mile. So like to basketball players, like, whoa, that's so fast. Right. And then my coach was like, you should really try out for cross country. I think it'll be good for you to use that time to get ready for the basketball season. So I ran cross country, and then I was like, okay, this is kind of fun. And I was winning like the little freshman miles and freshman, like, what was it? I don't even think it was a full 5K. I think it was just like a 1.5K or something weird like that. Mm-hmm. So I was doing those little races, and I was like, all right, I guess I'm kind of good at this. And then when indoor came around, that was also basketball season. And then my track coach was like, you can really be good at this. I know that you only came here to get prepared for basketball, but maybe you could stick with this for a bit. And at the time, my high school track team had so many good people, and they had a rich history. You probably know some of the people that have gone to my high school, Benjamin Cardozo in Queens, New York, Dalila Muhammad. Okay. And at the time I was there with Deja Stevens, and they just had so many people that had moved on and got scholarships from these great universities. And so I was like, well, this is a national caliber team. And I don't know, it looks pretty promising. So I stuck with it. Of course, my basketball coach was mad, but then I just continued on. And then, I just stuck with it all the way through.
I feel like that's a theme through all school sports, from high school to college, because it's like so many of us can compete in multiple sports, typically as long as they're not going on at the same time. And I feel like one coach will see you perform and try to recruit you to their sport. And then it's like a battle of coaches fighting over that athlete. The same thing when I was in high school, the football coaches were kind of stalking us on the wrestling team, and some of the wrestling coaches were stalking the football players, and it was like they were trying to steal each other. And a lot of those sports will send their athletes to cross country and track just to stay in shape, and work on speed and different things like that. So I can imagine what that's like. Now definitely. I read something, and I don't know how, I didn't see a date on it, but your first and only, I'm assuming it was a 5K, was you ran a 20:54. So let me see I'll give
When
you the.
was that?
Unless this information is incorrect, it says the Bell Dellinger Invitational. It said it was your only appearance running cross country.
Oh, for Oregon. Yeah, I actually did run cross country at Georgetown, but it was my only appearance running cross country when I transferred over to Oregon at the Bill Invitational. Yes.
Was that, if you can recall, was that a 5K or was that like one of the ones you were talking about that was like
I think it was a 6K.
Which actually kind of hurts my pride even more if that's true.
Wait, was it 6K? I think it was a 6K.
All I know is I see 2054 and I'm like, the amount of times I was running 5Ks and fighting to go sub 20 and you just run a 2054. So if it is a 6K, I'm like, oh God, it's even worse. Like,
yeah, I think that was a 6K. I could be wrong, but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was 6K. But yeah, that was my only appearance running cross country for Oregon. But I had run cross country at Georgetown and at high school. But yes, that was a fun time. I remember it.
This is something also, like, as I'm looking at it, that is interesting about running related sports because of the time aspect. Like, obviously there's always going to be the time and the placing. So I'm looking at it and the time is like, wow, that's impressive. And then you see 71st place and like people are going to go, well, that's not that good. But like, you don't realize, like, especially if you don't watch cross country and if you've ever seen like the start line of these things, like how many people are there. To me, it's like a lot of people focus on what place you came in and not the times.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the problems with the sport, especially the more you get up in college and then in the professional level, because you look at like the times of the Olympic trials and some of the Olympic events, and it's like some of these people who don't podium, their times would have been, amazing at any other event. It's who shows up that day and who you compete against.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it is really like that. I mean, I'm no cross country or distance runner by any means. So just completing the race is an accomplishment for me. But yeah, times do not reflect how good you are. I mean, place doesn't reflect how great you are. Yeah, but you do have a great point.
Yeah, and you are correct. I can confirm it. The men actually run 8K, but the women run 6K.
Yeah, yeah. In college, 6K.
Yeah, so, and I just wanted to bring that up because, again, like there's so many people that I feel when they get into like the longer distance stuff or like first time runners, I feel like, because I've seen it at some of the events that I've done where they start posting the times and everyone quickly wants to look at what place they came in. Mm-hmm. And they, some people joke about it and other people, you could see it if you watch different reactions. Like they're kind of like, damn, that's kind of embarrassing. But it's like, if you focus on your time and not the placing, because for me, my all-time best when I finally broke 20 minutes in the 5K, any other race, I would have been definitely top 3. And in some of the races I've done, I would have they would have thought I was elite because I would have blew away the field. But on this particular day, I finished 22nd and I'm like this was like, I ran my best ever and I finished 22nd. And I just started looking at the other people's times and I'm like, okay, it makes sense. Like this guy's running in the 15s and 16s and 17s. So, that's something I like to make sure listeners always understand is that we have to run our race and focus on our individual goals and be proud of our accomplishments, not always trying to chase other people. So
yeah, definitely. You have to set goals for yourself. And I guess it does get hard when you're looking at other people's times and their place, but You just can't compare yourself to others. Like, you have to stick with your own journey, your own path.
Right. So, you, like many athletes I've noticed, go to different schools throughout your collegiate career. So we'll kind of start. What made you initially choose or decide to go to Georgetown?
Yeah. Well, at the time when I finished high school, I knew I wanted to be on the East Coast. So I also really liked the Big East, and my brother had gone to Syracuse, and at the time it wasn't the Big East before they switched over to the ACC, and I was like, okay, I'm only gonna look at schools in the Big East, and it came down to Georgetown and Villanova for me. They're both great schools academically, and they both had power teams, and it was a hard decision because I liked both the coach from Villanova and I liked our Georgetown coach. At the time it was Mike Smith, who's now at NAU, but I ended up choosing Georgetown, and I loved it. I really did. So I spent 4 years there. I graduated, and it was great.
And then from there, you went on to Oregon. Now, I noticed you did get the degree at Georgetown. So was it a degree thing, like to pursue another degree at Oregon, or was it that and running? What was the reason to then go to Oregon?
Yeah. Well, I had a back injury in my senior year at Georgetown. So that gave me a redshirt year. And I don't know, I guess at Georgetown, I did consider staying at Georgetown because I loved the team and the coaches were great. And regardless, I knew I wanted to get my master's. So whether it had been Georgetown or somewhere else. But yeah, I just decided to take a risk and move to the West Coast. And that's what I did. It was a really hard decision because I really liked Georgetown, and I had never lived on the West Coast before. So it was a big leap.
And I'm sure the weather differences must have been.
Yeah, the weather is way different here. Lots of rain. So yeah, it was way different when I moved here.
And something actually I meant to throw in there earlier when you mentioned being from New York. As somebody who is in love with the New York Marathon and promotes it all the time and encourages anyone who decides to run a marathon to consider that as one of them, was that in any time when you were in New York or since, like, have you been to or around New York during that time, like when the marathon is going on?
I actually have not. It gets so busy that time and roads are closed off. And I'm actually in Queens, and it takes place in Manhattan. So it's not like I can walk out the door and witness it. But no, I've been there for like setting up, and it's still crowded during setup time. So no, it's pretty crazy. I need to put that on my bucket list.
Yeah, because I've talked to a couple of people actually while working that were from New York, and they told me that it was a couple blocks away from them. So they, maybe for an hour or two, they'll walk over to where the crowd is and just kind of put themselves in that environment. It's just something I always wonder, because I know, like you said, it's so crowded. And from what I observed being there that weekend and running the race, it's like a lot of the 5 boroughs are shut down, like, because there's nowhere to go. And like my whole thing running it was like, what if there's an emergency around here? Like, how will like police or fire departments, ambulances get like to where they need to go? And really, really cool experience. But I always ask that when I talk to somebody from that part of New York, because I always wonder if they've ever experienced it, even just like that whole atmosphere. Because I know afterwards, like just the Times Square area, since that's where the finish is and a lot of people kind of hang out, it's just chaotic with like all the runners and
Mm-hmm.
You got people that have showered and are in clean clothes with their medals, and you got people that are still wearing their running clothes and just it's crazy.
It is crazy. Manhattan alone without the marathon is crazy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I can only imagine how it is during.
Yeah, because I heard it even got bigger since the year I did it 2016. And at that time, we had broke the record with like 52,000 runners. But I've heard it's gotten bigger since. I mean, not with the last couple of years, you know,
With
COVID.
yeah.
But yeah, that city's already packed. And yeah, to see all those people in there, that's why I was really glad I took the advice of previous runners who were like, no, get a hotel at the finish line. It's going to be the best decision you ever make.
Yeah, seriously.
So I know from my experience, just competing in sports in the high school level and training with people at the college level, I saw the huge difference in talent and abilities. So I can only imagine jumping from college to the pro levels. What are, since you have become a pro, what are some of the differences that you've noticed, maybe some of the challenges, some things that actually you might have thought were going to be tougher, but ended up not being tough? Just give us that experience of transitioning from the college level to the pro level and what that's like.
Yeah, I think at this level, it is definitely harder because everybody's good. And it definitely requires a lot more time and dedication. And I think in college you can get away with some things because not everyone is so serious and they don't actually care as much.
Right.
But when you get to the professional level, like it's your livelihood and it requires so much more time and consistency. So there's a lot more that goes into it, and you just have to stay on top of everything, whether it's nutrition, going to PT, getting your massages, just all things recovery. And it's not just about getting the workout in and going home. Like, no, it's a 24/7 job. You always have to be on top of every single thing that you do.
Right. So there's obviously the benefit of now you have more time because you're not trying to balance the sport and school. And if you are lucky enough to be sponsored, from what I've seen, most sponsored athletes are able to make that their career. They don't have to work another job on the side. Was there any other benefit that you found has helped you improve, whether it's coaching or access to different training since going pro?
I guess for my first year pro, it was a bit difficult because I was still completing my master's. It was a 2-year program, so I had to finish the second year while also being pro. And but I think just after that, it was just a matter of figuring out how to recover and just eat the right foods and just things that you wouldn't think of. I guess what has been beneficial is having the structure. So we have a team of nutritionists. We also have our PT, and I think just having that structure definitely helps. And it also helps that everyone is serious. We all have goals to run our best. So every day people are pushing each other, and it's never like, I guess we all have a common goal and we're all trying to get there.
For sure. Definitely the people you surround yourself with will make a difference and an impact on your performance as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's been, we're slowly approaching 2 years now. What has this whole pandemic experience been like? You know, sounds like you turned pro right around that time where we were headed in that direction. So you probably haven't even had like a real full season of that traditional professional experience with the crowds and things like that. What has it been like so far for you as an athlete, a professional athlete, with all the different policies and procedures and everything that is being asked of you on a daily basis, not just when you're competing?
Yeah. I guess it is pretty annoying having to get COVID tests all the time, but at the same time, like, this is where we're at in the world, and it's important to take all these safety precautions. And yeah, it should be this way. I feel like we should have our COVID tests weekly, as we have been doing before meets and stuff. I think in the beginning, the hardest part was when the pandemic first, I guess, got crazy. It was trying to run with my mask on the trails.
Oh,
I think that was like, I was like, I can't do this. I cannot do this. At the time, it was like, you can't be outdoors without your mask on. So I think that was the hardest thing for me. Just being on the treadmill or just being on the trail running with the mask on. And it was pretty tough. But luckily we were able to keep training, and we actually turned our garage into our weight room, which was because we no longer had access to the University of Oregon's weight room, as we normally used to do. So just minor changes, but luckily we were still able to train through it.
And I joke about this a lot with everybody. Being born and raised here in Florida, we are probably the most hard-headed state out of the 50. And for me, it just, when it came to running, it seemed like nothing changed, other than like we didn't have as many race opportunities, but we still had races. And like when we would go running, you know, I trained solo. So for me, I didn't have to worry about being close to anybody. But, you know, when you're running on the sidewalks, because we don't really have that trail opportunity like many. So pretty much everything is run on the sidewalk. And if you find an isolated road, or if it's early or late enough, you can jump on the road. It's kind of all we did was nobody wore a mask to run. We just would, like, one of us would jump into the grass or road and let the other one stay on the sidewalk. So we didn't have to put the mask on. It was like, I'll just sacrifice and add a couple meters to my route.
Yeah, people still expected you to do that here, even if you were wearing the mask. No, so I would wear that one. After a while, I couldn't wear the little blue mask anymore. I was like, I just can't do it. So I started wearing the one that goes around your neck and you just pull up. And that was still hard wearing that. So I'm glad we're past that. Now I could just socially distance myself. And it does help that I got vaccinated a bit, but I could still get it. So I don't know how much that helps.
Yeah, I think the funniest moment for me was one of the first like actual races I was signed up for, and I did. It was it had multiple distances. I was, of course, being the crazy one, I was running the 100-mile distance, and the race got special approval as long as they followed certain guidelines. And they actually had the option where if you felt, you know, safe or whatever it may be, you were allowed to, like, we had different wristbands basically, and the wristband color told people stay away from me. Another one was, I'll come to you if I'm, you know, confident in coming close to you. And the other one was, look, I don't care. This is a normal race. You come to me, I'll come to you, whatever. And we had to wear our, you know, we were all wearing like a buff or gaiter over our face, because it's a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But after, and you only had to wear it when you crossed, because it was a looped course. So you only had to wear it when you were coming through the main area where the loops ended and started, and the aid station. Otherwise, they left it up to your discretion with, you know, the color wristband you had on. And I want to say after about maybe an hour, everybody, including the people that had the "don't touch me, don't come to me" wristbands on, we were all like, this is stupid. At this point, we've all spread anything that somebody might have along this loop that we're running circles on. So everybody just said, forget it. We're going back to normal. And it was nice to not have that stress. And we all just knew, hey, when we get home, just get tested. And if somebody gets something, we're posting it on the Facebook group and warning everybody.
Oh, no. Oh, man, it is hard to run with the mask or the buff. But I mean, hey, you got to do it. So
yeah,
do your best, I guess you could say.
And I know this is touchy for everybody, so I'm not going to ask you if you are or not vaccinated, but do you know if people who are vaccinated, do they still have to take like that test before the meet, just for everyone's overall safety of possibly having it and spreading it to someone who's not? Or like for the meets we're required to take COVID tests, and if you are vaccinated, you have to send in a photo of your vaccination card to the meet directors. But yeah, I'm vaccinated and my teammates are vaccinated we because we all live together and we train together. So it was kind of like expected of us, I guess you could say. But I mean, it's up to an individual whether they want to get vaccinated or not. But otherwise, if you're not vaccinated, we would just get COVID tests before the meet. I think it's like 72 hours before competition or something like that. And I've shared on my social media the experience, and I know it varies from person to person. Did you have any rough moments with like reactions to your shots? Yeah, I did feel sick for a bit. It was a bit rough. The first one, I just had a headache and I was sleepy, but the second one, man, I woke up in the middle of the night with like a fever.
Oh my God.
And I remember I joked with my wife, like the first thing I did when I woke up and noticed that was I ran to the kitchen and started smelling and like just like drinking. I don't remember what I even drank, but I was like, I want to make sure I have my smell and my taste, because then I know I don't have COVID. But I was like, yeah, it was so. And then I woke up like a few hours later and it was gone. So I was like,
wow.
Yeah, like it was crazy. But it's another thing that we go through that people don't experience.
Yeah, exactly. Some people are okay and some people are just like, no, I'm so sick. I've heard so many stories about people just hadn't had any effect on them, and then others are on the entire other side of the spectrum there. So
when I originally reached out to you, if you can remember, feels like it's been so long ago.
I know, it's been so hard trying to figure out the perfect timing.
So originally this was going to be a written experience going into the trials, and here we are now after so many different things have gone on. So yeah, I want to ask, and I feel like sometimes the further you get away from it, the easier it is to ask, depending on the results for each person. What was, because I know everybody going into any event, your expectation is to win and do your best. With the expectations you had, what was your overall experience like at the Olympic trials?
Yeah, obviously my goal was to make the team, and that didn't happen. I think having a small injury pop up right before the trials really hindered my chances during the trials. And I mean, it's unfortunate, but it happens in this sport pretty often. So right before the prelims, I had strained my adductor, and I was like, all right, let me just hang on for this round. Made it to the semifinals, and then semifinals came and I couldn't hold on anymore. and it was just killing me. My adductor was killing me. And yeah, I guess I could say I tried my best. It wasn't the results I wanted, and obviously nobody wants to be injured before a huge competition. But you know, it's the life of the sport.
Yeah, and another thing I mentioned a lot of the time that I talk to each athlete is, and I'm realizing it now, that the 800 meter distance, I'm starting to have a hard time watching because I'm rooting for so many of you now that it's like, it's so tough because I see, you know, typically 3 of you succeed and then the rest of you don't. And it's like that emotional roller coaster of seeing a couple of you really happy and a couple of you pretty disappointed. I know watching the trials, like just looking at the names in each heat, I was like, gosh, like this distance is stacked.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's like, it was one of those things like we mentioned earlier, where you look at the placing and I feel like anyone from the outside looking in would be like, oh, this person must not be that good. But like your distance was really stacked this year, just from my experience following the sport. And
yeah,
like it was
definitely, I'd say the hardest event, the most stacked event.
And I think what's even more like, what's really impressive to me is because I know a lot of people will say, oh, you know, to be very successful right out of the gate as a professional is very surprising and not expected. But then you see like a thing Mo, and it's like wow, especially not just jumping to the professional level, but seeing how young she is. And it's one of those things where it's like, you don't like, I would think you guys have like certain people on your radar, like, you know, like for me, when I was wrestling, it was like we were looking in the paper and watching everybody's results at events that we weren't at and kind of following along, and we knew events we were going to meet at, and you just kind of expect certain people to show up and perform a certain way, and then you get these freshmen or these newcomers that just come on a scene and almost take over, and it's like, okay, I didn't expect that. So what being that level, I mean, after that, to me, it's only the Olympics. Maybe like a Diamond League type event would be somewhere in between that, just because now you're competing against the best from other countries where the trials is just US based.
Right.
What did you have the chance? I know with limitations you might not have, but were you able to kind of converse with other athletes, maybe pick their brains and learn anything from this experience that you can take into future events over the next few years?
Yeah, I mean, I guess not really, not with COVID.
Right.
But, I guess for the past year, I think every opportunity was a learning experience, just given that we didn't have many opportunities to compete. So I think taking every race and just taking every race. But at the end of the day, it's like, you can't compare yourself to other people's journey, because at the end of the day, this is an individual sport, and what works for someone else may not work for you. So yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but
it did. And that's why I threw it out there initially, that I know, you know, because I'm sure you might pass by somebody you don't really talk to or haven't met, and you guys might say, hey, you know, here's my contact information, or let's train together like later on, like when things clear up or something. Or like for me, when I would go, even now when I go to certain running events, I kind of like just look around and see what other runners do and see if there's something, like you said, not to mimic them, but maybe there's something I'm not aware of, especially not being a professional and having access to like all the best equipment or training advice and things. So that's something I always wonder, like when professional athletes, especially track, because you're you're competing against about 7 to 8 other athletes at a time, depending on the distance. I just wonder if you guys kind of like observe, maybe not right before the race, because I know you're locked in to what you're doing, but maybe if you're sitting in the stands watching another heat or other distances, I always wondered if that's something you guys do as well, maybe to pick something up from like another athlete.
Yeah. I guess for me, I don't usually do that. I guess because we're so structured in our own group, we have everything we need. But I do get questions from other athletes, asking about certain things, whether it's drills or something else. So yeah, I think it does occur, especially since we have such a huge structured program here. We have strength and conditioning, we have physical therapy, massage, everything like that. So I know I get a lot of questions from other people because they do see how structured our program is. So yeah, I think it does occur.
All right. And I kind of mentioned this last week. I was talking to Kendall Ellis about it, like the chaos that's about to kind of get dumped on you guys over the next couple of years with the Olympics being pushed back a year. It kind of changes the whole schedule and crams everything in over the next couple of years. So what's your overall goal over the next few years? Like, do you I'm assuming you're going to try again for the 2024 Olympics. So like what do you got planned without giving us all your secrets?
Well, for me, it's like mostly just taking it one step at a time. So right now, my main goal is Worlds. So this year I'll be focusing on trying to do everything I can to make that team. And then the following year I'll have a new goal. And then the following year, obviously Olympics.
Right.
So I think it's just making small goals for myself. Obviously the overall goal for this year is Worlds. But yeah, in the meantime, it's just getting back into shape after taking off for my off-season break and just trying to figure out what I can do to be faster.
Right. And since you mentioned it, when does your off season? Because I know it can vary, even though the actual season starts at the same time for everybody. But when do you kind of start dialing in and ending your off season to prepare for the next season?
Yes, tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Tomorrow's my first day of practice. So yes, vacation's over.
Well, I guess I got something that no one else has yet. Like I got breaking news. Like she is training tomorrow.
Training tomorrow.
Gonna post that on Instagram and Twitter, and like no one knows this yet. But so staying on the topic of off season, and I know this is probably something that we still, even though you could be in season, we all have to keep our mental health and just keep that life and sport balance and career balance. I always try to find out a little bit more about the person compared to the athlete. And one thing I recently discovered is you make your own custom hair products.
Yeah.
So
I've definitely been slacking. I've been slacking on the hair products. I think I'm gonna have to come up with a new concoction since I dyed my hair. So
actually, yeah, now that you say it and I can see you, like it does look darker than I remember.
Yeah, I got some blonde in my hair, so I'm gonna find a new concoction to make to help with the bleach. But yeah, that is one of the things I like to do. Might be a little strange to most people. But I love making my own hair masks. Yeah.
Is that something you do just for you, or is it like a business, or maybe one day would be a business opportunity for you?
Yeah, no, it's something I just do for me. I know some of my friends have asked if they can have some, so I just let them try it out. But yeah, hopefully if people are interested, I would love to turn it into a business.
Okay, I asked because my wife is Black, so she's always out there investigating.
I'll have to be an example.
Because like a fun fact about me that not many people know, but I'm definitely rusty. I'd probably mess up if I tried again today. But there was a point, maybe 10 years ago, where I could actually perm hair.
Really?
Yes, the girl I was dating, I was tired of her paying for other people to do it, and like it was kind of okay, this is a way for us to spend time together, but also I want to save us money, so teach me how to do this. And it was kind of scary because like you're messing with someone else's hair, but two, you're messing with a Black girl's hair, which
you don't want to mess that up. You don't want to.
So yeah, anytime I see that, like I always wonder, because I know the platform you have, if you were to decide to make that like a side business or opportunity, I think that it would be successful. So that would be pretty cool. What made you kind of get into that? The products you were buying kind of were terrible, or you just wanted something more unique to you?
I just wanted something unique to me. My aunt used to do it actually. And then like she would show me some of her recipes and I'd be like, all right, I'm gonna try this out and like change it to make it fit my texture hair, because she has a different texture than me. And my hair is also natural. I've never had a perm or anything, so it's hard to find things that suit my hair, because I feel like I have a lot of different curl patterns going on. So I just had to figure out what works for me. Then it just became a little hobby. So yeah. Well,
if you can figure out a way to make a generic for all men beards product, especially if you can find a way that helps us run faster, like I would be all over that, and you'd get a lot of my money for sure.
Yeah, I should look into how I can make beard masks.
Like to be honest, I'm very surprised. Like I've had a beard for a few years now, but just from the time that I started growing it and started looking into products for it, like it's like everybody and their dad is making beard products. Like I just, for people that follow me, they know I've been getting like nonstop tattoos. I'm getting my arms, actually they're done now officially. Monday was the official last session. But the guy that was doing my piece on Sunday, as we finished wrapping up and I'm about to leave, he's like me, he's got a little beard, and he's like, oh, I want you to try this out. And he whips out his own custom beard oil. And I'm like, everybody is making this. Like, this is, it's crazy. Great. So for anybody who would like to follow you, get to know you a little bit more, maybe harass you for some hair products, where that you're willing to share, where could people follow you on social media? And I will put these in the show notes as well.
Yeah, they can follow me on Instagram. It's Sabrina Jem, JEM. Just follow me on there, and I'm also on Facebook. So yeah.
All right. And one joke I will make with you. I have noticed, like, just from looking at your pictures, it almost seems like you have either a real serious look or like right now, like as I can see in the camera, like a real welcoming, fun, like because I see, and I'm assuming it's got to be just that locked in, like game time face.
Yeah, most of my photos are like game day locked in face, but like when I'm not competing, I'm actually never serious.
Because I remember seeing the pictures and I'm like when I go to message all of you, I'm like, like sometimes I'll look at the photos, and I shouldn't do this, but I start like looking at them, I'm like, all right, this person looks mean, they're not going to reply to me. and at first when I saw like a lot of your photos at the time were there was a lot of racing and events going on, I'm like, man, like I don't know, she might be nice, we'll give it a shot. And then I see you like months later, and we joked about it, like your golfing skills.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it's awesome anytime any of you are willing to share more than just the professional part of your career. And I think that's what I think we're all looking forward to with Chanelle, is seeing what she's going to do next. Because
Yeah.
I know, actually, you probably found out before she posted it, but even when she recently got engaged, like,
Oh yeah, I was actually there.
oh, so you get all the insights.
Like, look, and I'm like, look at what? And she's like, I got engaged. I was like, what the? It was literally, it happened down the park from our house. I was like, oh my gosh, I wish I was there to witness it. But it was an exciting time.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time, especially knowing now that I guess the fun stops here and the seriousness begins first thing tomorrow.
Yeah.
I know you got a session that you're doing after this to kind of get ready for that. So again, I appreciate you taking the time out. And if there's anything you'd like to say before we end the podcast, you have the mic to let it out.
No, I'm just so happy you were able to get me on. I really appreciate it, and I'm excited to hear more from everybody if they're listening. So just let me know if you guys have any questions. I'm on Instagram, so it's at Sabrina Gem. And yeah, I'm so happy we got to do this finally.
Me as well. And you said, so you right now are in the same house as, well, maybe not this second, but like you live in the same house right now with Chanelle?
Yes.
Okay, so I messaged her, so you're gonna have to put the pressure on her, because now that she's retired, she can't tell me, oh, I'm in Europe, or like I see her doing these podcasts with other people now too. So like I'm gonna need you to put the pressure on and be like, Chanelle, Phil's waiting. She knows, but
yeah.
So good.
I'll put the pressure on her.
Well, again, thank you so much. I wish you good luck for this season. I'm definitely going to be rooting for you. It's a bittersweet that Chanelle's going to be gone, but that's one less person now I have to struggle to like root for. It's one less person. Now I can root for you a little bit more.
Thank you.
For everybody that's listening, until the next episode, I try to end with something encouraging, but figuring or seeming that she's about to start a new season, I guess we could look at it in that sense of find what's next for you, do what it takes to take a break in between that moment, prepare yourself mentally and physically for what you're about to get into, so that you can go into it with the best mindset, and just be grateful for the opportunity to have that freedom to choose what you want to do and to do it, because not a lot of people have that opportunity, whether it is physically just capabilities that they don't have, or just that simple ability to make a decision. I know a lot of people who are so fearful to step out on that ledge and take a chance, for whatever reason. So make the best of the opportunities you have, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Thanks for listening to the Mile You're In podcast. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Check out previous episodes and more at heelstriker954.com.